Hello, this is Nice Wander. Welcome to the NOWMAN show. Joining us today are two Bernie Sanders delegates to the recent Democratic National Convention that took place in Philadelphia. And they're going to share their insights as to what really happened during the convention that was not seen in the media. Roberto Alvarez is a computer tomography technologist, a healthcare worker for over 26 years, a former union executive board member from SEIU, UHW, and was a Bernie Sanders delegate from the 38th District in California. Ryan Lopez is a Bernie Sanders district-level delegate representing California's 37th Congressional District, and he is the outgoing president of the College Students for Bernie. Welcome to the NOWMAN show, gentlemen.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us. Yeah, thank you.
Now, Roberto, first of all, what motivated you to want to be a delegate for the Democratic Party representing Bernie Sanders?
Well, after pretty much 9/11, with the attacks in the towers, one person got me the attention when they were doing the voting for the Patriot Act, and I noticed that this person was Bernie Sanders, that he was standing against going to war for that cause, even though that we knew that it was kind of fishy how they trying to sell it, trying to sell everything with the mushroom cloud. And everybody was just going, rowing it the same way, but he didn't. And it takes guts to do that.
Yes.
You had to have a good moral compass. You had to be solid about your beliefs. And since that moment, he got my attention and started, seeing what he was doing and all things that he was about. And also being on the floor by himself, just talking about the issues that really cares about the working people. And I pay attention to him, and at one point I was just like, oh, I wish he could have just run for president. And he got my attention. I started following him, and I was so delighted when he finally said that he was going to run for president.
Ryan, yes. What was it that got you interested in becoming a delegate?
For me, as you said, I'm the outgoing president of College Students for Bernie at the University of Southern California. And if you know anything about USC, there's a lot of this aura of privilege and a lot of students that come from higher income families and higher socioeconomic status. And that wasn't me at all. I grew up in South Los Angeles to a very working class family. My dad's a union man working for buses and for the Montebello bus lines down in the city of Montebello. And for me, that was an interesting perspective, being of a lower socioeconomic status at a school that's historically, its student body has a high socioeconomic status. And for me, Bernie really resonated with me, his talk about wealth and income inequality, about the environment, and about how we need to make college tuition free and basically afford anyone the opportunity to go to college if they want to. So as president of College Students for Bernie at USC, I got involved with canvassing for Bernie Sanders in Nevada and Arizona, with registering new voters at USC and in the neighborhoods. And through that, I saw that a lot of individuals needed this voice to, they loved Bernie, but they needed this person someone who was passionate about Bernie, who would be willing and able to represent their interests out in Philadelphia. To me, where that really happened was when I was canvassing in Arizona. Mm-hmm. I was in a neighborhood. I thought that I'd been in the worst neighborhoods in LA. Yeah. That was nothing compared to what I saw in Arizona. Now, I'm a chemistry major, and the fact that I saw a chemical plant right next to a working class, lower socioeconomic status neighborhood,
wow.
That,
shocking.
It was shocking, yeah. And it incited something in me that, I have the privilege and the opportunity to come all the way out here for Arizona and to tell them about this amazing candidate. I should be the one also back home to represent my constituents' voices. And I just basically decided, I should run. I should, as a passionate Bernie supporter that I am, and especially for a lot of young people, because Bernie really resonated with the young crowd.
Yes.
I was the youngest delegate in my congressional district at 20 years old. And I just felt this moral responsibility that if I had the ability to speak up for those who have no voice, I needed to do it. And that's exactly why I ran for delegate.
Fantastic. What was your experience the first day? Obviously, there was a lot of enthusiasm going on that very first day. There were signs, saying, stop the, the fracking and no TPP,
absolutely.
like we got here. This is one of the,
Right.
right?
It survived the war
It
of
survived.
the DNC.
Yeah, I see, right?
Yeah.
And I saw a cell phone video from, it must have been one of the local newscasters maybe that was there on the convention floor, and it really showed the perspective, of the people on the floor watching what was going on. And it was a full 5 minutes long. And Bernie just couldn't, he tried to start speaking, it must have been 7 times or whatever, and he couldn't start because, it wasn't just what I would say Bernie supporters. There were Hillary supporters, obviously, too.
Everybody in that venue.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point, everybody stood up and started clapping and started chanting for Bernie.
Right.
And it was amazing. And also at that moment, I thought about it they know he's the best candidate, and still yet they don't want him to be the president.
Yeah.
It was an eye-opening to see how much some power they have in that sense, but they don't have the reason to do it, because if you want to bring to the table the issues of the working people, Bernie did it. And those are the backbone of the Democratic Party. And for some reason, they decided that they already had their candidate, and they're going to do everything they have in their hands and in their power to control it and to make that happen. And at point, it's shameful just to see that it went that way.
Absolutely. And like Roberto said, you had a lot of Hillary delegates, not only at the convention, but a lot of supporters back at home saying, oh, we like Bernie. We like Bernie. He's an amazing guy. We just like Hillary better. I don't understand why they would think that, but you definitely had an aura of mutual respect on both sides. Obviously, we were there very passionate about Bernie, but also the Hillary delegates could see what he brought into the Democratic Party, what he contributed. Voter registration drives, bringing so many new people into the voting process, young people especially. Finally, after probably 50 years, ever since the '68 convention, really bringing in a lot of young energy. So all of us could appreciate what Bernie did, not only for the party, but for this country, and how many eyes he opened to the problems that there are in politics and to the social woes that people in America seem to have on a daily basis that aren't really talked about, unfortunately.
And I knew early on that he was the real McCoy.
Right.
He was not some phony or fake candidate that only wants to tell you what you want to hear. No, he told you about the issues that everybody cares about.
That's right.
And we are so forever will be grateful that he was able to bring it to the table and be part of the discussion of the Democratic presidential campaign.
Absolutely.
Because it has never happened before in the past.
And
And to me, is that politics in the United States has changed,
Yes.
and it's before Bernie and after Bernie.
Absolutely.
Because he breaks so many barriers.
That's right.
He sets so many records that it's going to be very difficult for any other candidate to surpass that. They may
right.
come close, but it's very difficult to surpass that. That's why it's so painful sometimes to think that we came so close and yet we were not able to win.
And on that first day, just if I may add on really quickly, on that first day and all the days, pretty much the entire time at the convention was hearing speeches from a lot of Democratic Party elites and super politicians basically denouncing Trump and touting Hillary.
Yeah.
And Bernie's was probably the only speech that I heard the entire time at the convention. Maybe Elizabeth Warren's a little bit too, but really Bernie's that actually didn't say the focus wasn't Trump, the focus wasn't Hillary, the focus was the issues that the American people face.
And that's, those of us that were following his campaign from the day it started heard that over and over again. I personally attended 4 rallies.
Right.
I heard the issues laid out one after another in about 60 to 70 minutes.
Absolutely.
So we knew, right? This was not a surprise.
And it was music to our ears.
That's
the ones
right.
that we are trying
Absolutely.
to bring the fight to that.
That's
to
right.
there, and bring the issues to the table, because it takes guts to do that when everybody's saying something else.
That's
They
right.
said, oh, we had to be fearful about ISIS, we had to be fearful about Trump, we had to be worried about this, worried about that, but yet they don't put legislation into place that will take care of the problems that they are burdening the working people now in this time.
And we will get into that in
Absolutely.
another segment. Let's look now at a video. Unfortunately, Melissa Michelson was not able to join us today.
My friend Melissa.
Yes.
Hi,
she was,
Melissa, wherever you are.
absolutely.
She's in
She
Mexico
was,
in Campeche.
Yeah, she's in Mexico.
She's in.
A much-needed vacation.
Yes,
La
yes.
quieres con mole.
Hopefully, we can. She can join us. This is the
Yeah.
video she gave us.
Oh yeah. That's part of the battle that we had to fight every day. It was the day that Hillary was going to speak. We came in early because we know that we had to secure our area for our delegates for their seats, because it has been a battle from the beginning.
Right.
Then when people come and say they're Hillary campaign delegates, and they want to sit where we were sitting. And I say, why is that? He goes, oh, you know, it has to be unity. We have to be we are all Democrats. But then we found out that they were not delegates. They were
Right.
just seat fillers.
And I'll put it this way.
Were they
on the-
getting paid to?
Absolutely.
Sit? Really?
So on the third day,
like the first Donald Trump rally, right?
Yes.
let me tell you,
So the ads.
on the third day at breakfast, we all had a couple group chats going on, but we saw someone sent us an advertisement on Philadelphia's Craigslist that basically said $50 for anyone who wants to come in and fill in these seats in case delegates walk out. And that was infuriating because we were there representing our constituency, and for them to try to act like they were is ridiculous. And also, it's basically it's a lie. You look at the media and you see all these people in the seats and you think they're all delegates, but they're not. And it's infuriating. It really is.
For those that didn't really know exactly what was going on at that time, you know, and that's why we're talking to you now, and you can tell us exactly what was happening.
From the beginning. The
Right.
moment that you can see how everything was against us, the Bernie delegates.
Right, like if you see right there, you have a non-delegate getting taken to a seat, whereas one of our whips they're trying to kick her out.
Right, right.
And, you know,
The whips for the Democratic delegates representing Hillary, they were able to come into the venue 2 hours ahead of the game.
Really?
And do whatever they needed to do. So that specific day we came in and they didn't allow us to go in.
Right.
I was chosen from the group to be responsible to secure the area for the delegation. So I go in and they don't let me go in. He goes, wait, I had to go and set up the area, and there is no way they can let you come in. So we just had to wait. And when we came in, there are all these seats being reserved for whoever, but now for the Bernie delegates.
And the purpose of the whip, which is what Melissa, that was her role, right? For the
Absolutely.
whole
Right
for the
there,
whole
yeah.
California delegation, right? Not just for the Bernie part of the
Absolutely.
delegation, was to
Absolutely.
make sure that delegates still could have their seats that were designated for them specifically, right?
But also you have to understand that after the first day when we were chanting no TTP or no war, they didn't like us there. They
Oh, yeah.
didn't want
Yeah.
us to be there.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
we understood that.
Right.
So it was going to be a battle on that floor,
Yeah.
and we were proud to fight that battle. As a Bernie delegates, we know that we had a duty to fulfill, to be there and represent Bernie and represent the issues that we were chosen to be representing the people
Absolutely.
there. And everybody understood that, so we were lacking steps in trying to do that. And it was a great experience, but also it was the dark side of the Democratic Party that they chose us, that they didn't like us, they didn't want us there, and they did everything in their power to try to kick us out.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And you know, and the wonderful thing, as you just saw in the video, was that even when they tried to kick us out, you know, the Bernie delegates banded together. And at one point in this video, I don't know if you heard, but we were yelling, "Let her in,
Yes,
let
yes.
her in,"
Yeah.
because we were trying to keep our whip in, and they listened. And it got to the point that we interrupted a speech on accident of, I believe, Leon Pineda's
Leon
speech.
Pineda, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it just showed the unity that the delegates had, the love we had for Bernie, for each other, and for the people and the issues that we
But
were representing.
The level,
And that is one special moment that even people watching mainstream media got to
They
see.
hear it. They hear it. It was loud.
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell his reaction that he couldn't speak because
That's
he
right.
didn't know where it was coming from.
That's right.
And he was like, "What? Are you trying to interrupt me?" He tried to say it, and he couldn't say it because he couldn't
Right.
hear himself.
Yes.
What he was talking on the mic.
And that image now
Absolutely.
is out there for
Yeah.
people to see.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and so that was remarkable. That was a
It was.
remarkable achievement.
And you
Absolutely.
know what? That also gave us the sense of power that we had at that convention.
Definitely.
Because then we realized that we couldn't do a lot of things at that convention. Even though that Bernie said, don't do this, don't do that, we have a responsibility to fulfill at that convention. And the people that elect us to be there says, no to this, no to TPP, no to war, universal health care. We still bring those issues there.
Absolutely.
And let's talk now about the actual process. On the second day,
Right.
the roll call was happening. Now, it's my understanding that Bernie agreed to change the protocol of the roll call, even and in the forfeit of the rest of the delegates,
Right.
he went ahead and then nominated Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Well,
What exactly happened after that?
Let me walk out a little bit earlier than that.
Okay.
Right.
Because we met with Bernie, all the delegations with Bernie in one of the rooms over
Oh,
there
you
at
did?
the convention. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What did he say to
Anyway,
you?
He said, we're going to be supporting Hillary Clinton.
I see.
And that's what he said. And we all said, no.
absolutely.
We boo him, and he knew that he cannot control us.
Yes.
And most of the delegation, we love Bernie.
Yes.
And we told them we're going to follow you to hell if we need to go there in order to bring the agenda to the floor,
Right.
but not to support Hillary.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
he knew that, and he did everything try to sway us from not doing any disturbances over there at the floor. But he already knew that that was not going to be possible.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
He was just
So-
going through the motions.
Absolutely.
Right.
We understood
Right.
that.
Right,
So it
'cause
was
he had
part
to.
of the dog
Right.
and pony show that he was part of it because
Right.
he has to do what he had to do.
That's right.
Even though that some people said that they even went further and beyond, tried to intimidate him in order to support Hillary.
Right.
We felt them because after you have been following Bernie, you know how he acts, you know how he talks, and you understand the passion that he has.
Right.
And when he was talking to us, we know that he was not Bernie.
Yeah.
Right.
So that person, he may be Bernie, but it's not the Bernie that we know.
Right.
Yes.
It's not the Bernie that told us about the revolution.
That's right.
He's not
That's
the
right.
Bernie that is going to be leading us anymore.
Right.
So we understood that. So we let him be, and I said, that's fine. But we had a thing, our job is cut off for us to over there at the convention, and we are going to be doing what we need to do.
Now, did the massive walkout happen right after he officially nominated Secretary Clinton?
So to that point, I just want to make a slight correction.
Okay.
So what he said in his own words when he announced, he said, "Let the delegates' votes go into the record." So that meant that we're gonna list on the record who voted for Bernie and who voted for Hillary, and then suspend the rules to nominate Hillary. Which
I see.
people just thought, oh, he suspended the rules to make Hillary the nominee. No. He made sure that history
the
knew
votes will count.
who the votes were, which 1,900 of us voted for Bernie. And to your point on the walkout, it was actually very organic.
It was.
Yeah.
It basically, what had happened was once that happened, most of our delegates in good faith could not support the nomination of Hillary Clinton, especially here in California. After all the election irregularities that we saw on Election Day in California, after the DNC email leaks, after so much conspiring against us
Yes.
by the Hillary campaign and
And the
DNC.
mainstream media
And the
blatantly
mainstream
showing
media.
bias as
We
well.
were talking
Right.
about the standing ovation that he had at the beginning, or when he came to talk to us that night at the Wells Fargo Center, right?
Mhm.
At that moment, it's like everybody told him thank you for what he has done, and that he has brought us to the convention. And we know it was the end of the long campaign that we've been fighting. So that's it. That's all it is. So we just went going through the motions, and we were very upset that when they start doing the roll call, they added the super delegates in there. Because that was not supposed to happen, according to what we thought it was.
So
gonna be.
they were adding the super
Absolutely.
delegates in from the very
Absolutely.
first
Absolutely.
state.
So they've been rigging the election from the beginning, and they did it until the last moment
Last
to start
possible
counting.
moment.
They
Yeah.
did it because they knew. You know that at the beginning in the morning, when we went over there to get our credentials for that day, we had to vote for our delegate, for our candidate right there. So all the delegates vote. And it was interesting when I said, it goes, and I was actually with Melissa, it goes, so what's going to happen with this list? They're going to put it in a public place. We're going to find out who's voting for whom. And we asked the question, and they said, oh, we don't know. So what do you mean you don't know? You're talking about the voting list that people is voting already, and you're not going to have it displayed in a public place and find out what the count is?
Absolutely.
At the end, we find out that the majority of the people that voted in the morning voted for Bernie. And that's where they made them change their tactics in order to do the roll call.
I see.
Yeah.
So are you saying that it's possible some people change their votes?
So essentially, what I had heard in the morning was that, so the Bernie delegates, we were always up bright and early expecting everything because we wanted to be there early to be sure that in case they were trying to do some funny business, we would be able to correct it. So what we'd been told was that a lot of the Hillary delegates hadn't woken up in time to sign the paper. And so because it's only open between a certain period of time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, from 7 to 11.
From
That
7
was
to
the
11,
hours.
right? And you had 4 hours and you didn't make it to fulfill your responsibility and sign it. And to his point also that, it wasn't a public place, I find that a little bit offensive to the 19,800 voters that I represent, that they can't even see if their delegate voted the way they wanted to or not, which I did, vote for Bernie on that signature sheet. But the fact that there's not this open, it's an election in what's supposed to be the freest country in the world.
Right.
You're supposed to have transparency like that.
They run it like a private club that they are, and that's what they were doing. Like I said, they knew that we were about the business, and they didn't want it to deal with us at all. So they did everything in their power in order to
Is there
stop
anything
us
else
at every step.
that you saw that the mainstream media did not cover at all?
Well, let me tell you, I arrived there the Saturday before the convention, and I was there the Sunday, and there were already rallies going on around Philadelphia all over the place.
I interviewed
So
Yana Indigo, so I knew about those.
I went to a
happening.
couple of them, and I was part of the thousands of people that were over there at the Civic Center. Then after the first day, and actually the night before, there were several parties for delegates to go. There is a lot of distractions in there. If you're thinking about having a good time and go and have a good cold drink and forget about the business that you're there for, there is a lot of distractions for that. So if you go to bed late and you don't get up early, then you are missing part of the program. And our program was from the beginning. It started when we went to breakfast in California. We tried to hold accountable all the representatives of California that they were pushing for Hillary. I don't know if you know about it, but Alex Padilla, he got an earful about doing his job.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, he did.
Because, they were saying that that it's important to get more people to come to vote and participate in the democratic process.
Yes.
Over 2 million people didn't count in the election in California for the primaries.
Yes.
And we first start chanting, count the votes, count the votes.
Count our votes,
And,
count our
and
votes.
all the delegates from Hillary camp, they were very upset that we were yelling at him to count the vote. One lady came, approached me, goes like, why don't you show respect for our elected, person from California? He goes, no, listen what I'm gonna tell you. We pay for his job. We pay his salary.
Yeah.
He works for us.
Yeah.
And we're trying to hold him accountable to do his job. If people is not getting counted in the rolls, then we have to let him know.
Yeah,
because that's not fair.
And to that point, when Hillary delegates were telling us, you're being so disrespectful, booing down Alex Padilla, to the point that he was screaming into his microphone in order to get a word out, we said, I think it's kind of disrespectful that a couple million votes didn't get counted. I think that's more disrespectful, that you're basically silencing the voices and the will of thousands and millions of people. That is a lot more disrespectful.
We'll come back in another part and continue this conversation. So this is Nice Wonder on the NOWMAN Show, and I'm here with Bernie Sanders delegates Ryan Lopez and Roberto Alvarez.
Democratic National Convention.
I know, but are there California delegates?
Are there California delegates? Are
Thank
there
you.
California delegates? Are there California delegates?
And why do they have? And why do they have to be escorted to their seats? Don't they already have seats?
Because these are our seats, they're not your seats, okay? These are our seats, they're not your seats, okay?
They're California delegates. Yeah, for that
They're not even California.
I
was over
When
there.
did they take that down?
No, they're not. I just came from out there. It's clear out there. Go check your facts, buddy. And pipe down, okay? This is a relaxed convention.
You're a staff member. I thought.
Wait, why? Where are you going? Melissa, why are you taking it? Why are you going?
You have to be off the step, okay?
Why is she going? Why is she going? Seriously, WikiLeaks is like releasing a lot of emails right now. Again.
What are you recording?
Look at this professional intimidation, dude. Yeah, professional intimidation. She's a whip. She's representing our This guy has to be removed. That guy right there. That guy right there has to be removed. Take him. Stop. 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 Let her in. Let her in. Let her in. Let her in. Woo! Nurses. Thank you, nurses. Always saving the day. Thank you, nurses. Woo! Woo! That's how we do it, man. That's how we save our democracy. Everyone who stands up for democracy, that's how we save it. Working together, because they can't stop us.
That is mythology. Now tell that to the people in Idaho and Utah last night. They gave us almost 80% of the vote. Tell that to the people in 9 other states where we won in almost every instance overwhelming victories. Secretary Clinton did very well in the South. We are out of the South, we're in the West now.
Hi, do you ever get curious about how sound is used? Is it in music? Is it in spoken word? Is it in acting or business, or just plain exploring the environment? If you are, tune in to Sounds Within with L.V. Smith, Fridays at 8:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. See you then. Hi, this is L.V. Smith, host of the show Sounds Within, which comes on Fridays, 8:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. When I'm not producing that show, I like to watch Dan Nicewander's show called The NOWMAN Show, Thursdays at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.